Doing good. We were a little confused how it works. I think we were on hold, I think 3 or 4 times sitting there talking to each other on the 3-way call.
Oh.
We didn't know what was going on. And then finally, the 4th time, I heard that we were in the queue, waiting.
Yeah, you got to press the 1, otherwise I don't know to pick up that call.
We did that every single time. But
you
for
did?
Some reason,
okay. Because I would see a call come in and then drop off. So that must have been you guys.
Yeah, because the smartphone thing is weird, because you got to merge the calls and you got to have your keypad up,
Yeah.
So you've had some excitement for the day then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to introduce you to my special co-host today. It's Mike Lidskin. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
We got 2 Mikes here, Mike and Mike in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We'll work this out. One of the Mikes is really a talented musician, and the other one is me, so I think we'll be able to sort that out.
Someone's got to be Michael, someone's got to be Mike then.
Yeah, then you'll be the planetary blues guy. You're Michael. We'll do it that way.
That's good. That's what everybody calls me anyhow.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, good. Now, when I posted on your Facebook wall, Martin says today's his day off of talking and that it was all up to you, Michael. So what's up with that?
that translates into he's watching football. I'm watching football right now. I got the Bears game on. But he is, there's no way, because the thing is, I don't do the fantasy football stuff. Martin does. We're crazy Bears fans. At least Martin and I are. Michael could care less, but I got the game on in the background, and Martin has, he's probably at home screaming at the TV.
So now, Martin, when you listen back to this, you're busted. They told
I think you have no problem admitting what's going on here.
Yeah.
Really...
Well, I guess you got to pick your priorities on certain days.
Funny.
So, anyways, what I'd like to do is have you guys give a little background on yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got into music. I know that there's a theme going on here. It looks like 3 of you are brothers.
Yeah, well, we all, got into music at a really young age. I guess I'll let Michael start this one because he started playing, that's a couple of years before I even started playing. So, Mike?
Well, let's see here. So, Martin is actually the first of us 3 brothers to start playing. He started playing guitar probably, I think he had noodled with some acoustic guitar when he was probably like 13 or something. But he didn't stick with it too long. But then he revisited it near like 16, and he got an electric guitar. And I always will remember the day he got that electric guitar because he just got like a Squire with a little amp. And I was always really intrigued by it. And him and his friend Caleb always played. But so they kept playing for the next year and a half or so, or 2 years. And then eventually, I would noodle on his guitar, and because he lived in the basement at our mom's house, and I would go down in the basement and always play around on his guitar. So it became really clear to me soon that I wanted to follow in his footsteps. Of course, I looked up to him a lot, and play guitar as well. So I got my first guitar when I was 14, and at that point, Bobby was about 16, and Martin was about 18. Because we're all 2 years apart, roughly. And so I got my guitar, and then about a year and a half later, Bobby started playing bass. But when I got my guitar, I started jamming with a couple friends of mine. One of them lived down the street and played guitar. His name was Steve. And then another one was actually Bobby's good friend growing up with, who's Bobby's age, 2 years older than me, who was a drummer, and his name was Joe. And he actually was Planetary's main drummer for, we've been a band a little over a decade, and for the first half of our career, he was our main drummer. Now the drummer that we have now is also another good friend of ours who's actually Martin's age group, so that's 2 years above Bobby, and he's our current drummer. But So long story short, I was jamming with Joe and Steve, my friends, and Martin had been jamming a little bit with Nick, who is in his age group, who is our present drummer. And, you know, at some point, Martin noticed that what me and Steve and Joe were doing didn't sound bad at all, because we always wanted him to jam with us, you know, but he's the older brother, so it's not always easy to get him to check out what you're doing at that age, you know. But anyway,
he's cool, and you're just kids. You're just the kids.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what was going on.
So basically, he heard us, and he was pretty impressed. So we got him to jam with us. And then, you know, so me, Martin, and our friend Joe and our friend Steve were jamming all the time. And eventually, we're like, we need somebody to play bass, you know. So it was a little weird because we had 3 guitars, three Stratocasters at that. And eventually we got Bobby to play bass. And Bobby, you know what? It's funny because I think Bobby could tell you about this, but he noodled around with bass prior to this too, but he didn't, you know, he was revisiting it at this point when we started Planetary. So what's the deal with that, Bobby? Didn't you?
That was like when I was in the 6th grade. I had, you know, I was really into Jack Bruce, and a friend of mine had a Fender bass. One of our brothers actually friends, you know, and I at that point I think I had rented like a bass or something from the local music store that that Michael teaches. He instructs up at Front Porch Music here in town, and I'd rented a bass for a little while. I think I took a couple lessons, but I wasn't, you know, I was just too young into other things at that point. I was 12 years old, so you know, a few years later when all these guys were playing, it just kind of just was a natural thing that, well, we needed a bass. So I think I got a bass one Christmas or something, and then I literally like that. Then a week later, we were rehearsing, practicing songs, and having to learn stuff at a really fast pace. At least, I mean, we were playing a lot of stuff, pretty much right away. It seems. I don't remember. It's weird. I don't really remember a time of not like actually playing songs. Like right from the beginning, we were playing old Chicago blues tunes, just learning stuff off of Buddy Guy and Junior Wells' Hoodoo Man Blues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
that's really
when did you guys actually pick the name Planetary, and where does that name come from?
That was like a few years into the process. We were, it got to a point where we had been playing enough. At first, it was just, we would all, hang out at our mom's house in the basement. All of our friends, everybody would come over here after school or whatever. People would be in our basement just listening to us jam. And it got to a point where, we had kind of built up enough of an audience with just our, some of our friends that we needed a band name. So I don't know exactly how it came about. I remember the night that it happened. I remember where I was at. I was in my mom's kitchen with our old drummer at the time, and I think I kind of came up with the name based on old Mahavishnu Orchestra, which is a jazz fusion band from the 70s, but they had a song called Planetary Citizens on one of their CDs, and I think the lyrics to it are like, something like, we're planetary citizens of the human race trying to make the world a better place, blah, 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 So for us, as a band, we've always had, certain ideals. I guess our one of our good friends and biggest band supporters, this guy John Brown, he's a great friend of ours, but he like actually has labeled us as blues hippies, So I mean that's really what we are. So I mean the whole thing with the name Planetary Blues, I think I suggested that we'd call ourselves like Planetary Citizens or something, and then our drummer at the time, I think it had the idea of calling ourselves Planetary Blues, which was way cooler. I mean it was kind of nerdy when I look back and think about it, I'm glad that he changed it up, but it's been one of these things that we've debated it forever. Me and our old drummer, he claims to have just came up with the name outright, but he's full of it.
It's a very, very cool name, and on the website it states that you guys are a rock band, yet you have the name blues in the name of your band. So how do you reconcile that difference? How do they work together, the two genres?
Okay, well, see, for me and for all of us, I mean, like really, you know, one thing our brother's been saying, Martin, off stage on stage lately, is something that, you know, we heard Buddy Guy say, and that, you know, what the, you know, really all rock and roll is the blues sped up, you know, and that's really all we've ever done is just play old blues and rock and roll. A lot of people don't realize it, but I mean, really, any great rock band, what they've done is play blues. I mean, I thought about it one day, and you could take the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, it doesn't even matter. You could just keep listing these bands, and the one thing that almost every single one of them has in common is that they all, in their early stages, were playing Chess Records Chicago blues.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that, just, you know, blues, because it's, you know, I don't know, it's a sad thing. You know, for us, like, we got to do what we do. And, you know, we have to call ourselves a rock band, and we have to play this blues to educate people. You know, really.
It's a good
and
point.
Well, you mentioned where it's all coming from.
You mentioned some of the great British bands of the 60s and 70s, and Led Zeppelin's first album was pretty much straight up blues, just really loud and really fuzzy. Yeah,
totally. Michael loves Jimmy Page. He just got done reading Jimmy Page's autobiography, actually, right, Mike?
Well, no, I mean, it's a book called Light and Shade, which is basically just a bunch of it's him being interviewed throughout the whole thing. But yeah, it's a super insightful book. It's really cool, and I can relate to Jimmy Page too, just as a lead guitarist slash. I've been working on engineering music. I actually engineered the whole album Once Upon a Time in the South Loop, but yeah, I mean, it's you know, everything that we're talking about right now is just so important too, because American music is the problem. You know, if somebody asked me what does America have about its culture to be, what do we have to be most proud about? You know, I would say by hands down the easiest answer is American music. And the irony of the British invasion is that the British invasion wasn't necessarily just, it was a British take on American music, you know.
Yeah, it was really the British invading us with our own music, you know? I mean, the old Beatles, like, BBC sessions, if you take that, when I was a kid, you know, when I first started buying CDs, you know, some of the first CDs I was buying were just Beatles, you know, Beatles discs, because our dad, you know, growing up really loved the Beatles and Chuck Berry and the Rolling Stones, so, but anyway, I had bought these, you know, double disc Beatles live at the BBC, and all that stuff, you know, all those recordings, they're playing, like, Matchbox Blues and covering all the old, you know, Chuck Berry stuff. Which Chuck Berry, you know, he was on Chess Records label, same label as Buddy Guy and Bo Diddley and everybody else, you know, that all the British cats were listening to, you know. So, I mean, everybody was covering this stuff and playing it, you know. And you're not really, I guess some of the point that I'm saying is you're not going to find a rock band that doesn't play blues. And a lot of bands, you know, even back in the 60s, called themselves blues bands, like Santana when he first started out was the Santana Blues Band, but, you know, for marketing purposes or whatever, dropped blues. But I think we're living in an age where, you know, I think, you know, for a little while we actually dropped blues band from our name. We just called ourselves Planetary, you know, for a little bit Planetary or Planetary Blues. But you know, with our latest recording, we decided no, we're going to incorporate with the name the the-planetary-blues-band, you know, because. You know, even though it's going to maybe kind of confuse a couple people or whatever, but I think, you know, for our purpose, we need it. There's the blues in the name in this day and age, you know.
Back to your
definitely.
roots.
Well, you know what else, too, is if you ask a lot of people that, you know, enjoy music and listening to music and listen to a certain genre of music, especially like rock, and if you ask them, do you listen to blues music, they'll say no, you know, a lot of times, but they don't realize that it's actually in that rock music.
Well, yeah, that's
totally.
With the
people are listening to it all the time, and they don't realize it, you know, per se.
Yeah, you know, American music has such a strong influence globally. It's I don't think it's too extreme to say that blues might you know, it's potentially the most influential music on the globe, you know.
Yeah.
And it's in the genetic structure of music all around the world in so many ways that people are unaware of, you know. I mean, people in Europe, people in the East, they love American music. Like when you go to the international establishments in Chicago, like Buddy Guy's Legends or Kingston Mines, those are places that have a lot of people coming from South America, like I said, from the East and from Europe. And it's amazing to see how many people it's actually sad too, to a certain